Good afternoon from Thailand, everyone. It's Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I thought I would talk about stewardship, and stewardship is a term that has been used historically quite a bit, even from biblical times, and the concept of stewardship is not necessarily understood so much these days. So I thought today I would talk about stewardship in leadership. And I thought first I would start with the definition of stewardship, or what does it mean? It is the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. The careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. Now in leadership, and I'm focusing on healthcare and hospitality, yet families are entrusted to the care of their families, right? We can see that parents are entrusted to the care of the children that they've been blessed with, whether they are their own children genetically or whether they are adopted children. This is that blessing that has come into our homes if we are working with children. And we've also got, of course, adults. So there could be siblings. And how they're entrusted to the care of their siblings. And there could be children who are entrusted to the care of their parents when their parents are open to this. We've got to know that we are entrusted to a lot of blessings that come our way. And of course, it requires both individuals trusting us, or people trusting us, and families perhaps trusting us, and then the world trusting us, and our workplaces trusting us. So in healthcare, this also is, we've got a place of trust, that we are being given this trust to take care or to help someone. And this is the careful and responsible management. And we can only manage by the level that we have knowledge in. We also need to know that this whole idea of stewardship came from trusting in some divine force. So something on top of a practitioner's help is helping a person heal too. So it takes a practitioner, takes the patient, and it takes some divine energy that all works together to then create healing. Same thing happens in management, I'll say leadership roles, at least in the hospitality industry, because when you have been blessed with someone coming to stay at your hotel, your homestay, your home, anyone, some visitor is staying with you, you are entrusted to their care. And this is so important because, again, many times the person who is being cared for feels like they're in the receiving end of, okay, this hotel or this facility, this hospital is taking care of me. And it's true, that is our work that we do in those sorts of settings. Yet this entrusted with care doesn't happen, because oftentimes the busier we get, the less we're really caring. And this is so important because it's such a blessing to receive from divine energies, that it's something we want to do, it's something we've chosen to do, something that has been given to us in a way of our choice. Because even if we've applied to a job that we just kind of want, I kind of need the money and this is something I could do, as soon as we get a job, understand that we are entrusted to the care of whoever we're working for and whoever we are leading. And that could be the guests that are coming to a hotel, or an established organization of some sort. It could be just a business office that there is a guest coming, and that's very important too. This could be a stakeholder that is actually going to be pouring money into the business that we are working in. And this is so important because it's about our care about that this is an important being. Now, what if there wasn't money? What if there was just a matter of someone has come and said, can you help me? Can you take care of me? I would like some assistance, even if it's just directions. What is the energy that we give then? Is it different because they're not paying for our services? Technically, they're not paying for our services. Maybe they haven't visited that location, whether healthcare or hospitality, for quite some time. And they come in to ask this question, do we help? And this is important because stewardship is knowing that we are entrusted with that service. And it doesn't mean what hat we're wearing. It's not my hours to work. It's not a space of stewardship where we actually have gratitude for the blessing of the person that's coming to us. So this next quotation literally says, leadership is stewardship. It's temporary and you're accountable. It's temporary and you're accountable. Why would we say that it's temporary? These days where we know that lots of people can lose work. People have been fired or let go or laid off from various types of organizations, and from small companies to large organizations. And so that work is temporary. Now, a lot of times, those of us that would work in those places have that at the back of the mind. Well, it's only a temporary job. It's either I don't really want to be there for a long period of time, or I know that jobs are limited and, nothing is forever. And that's a different energy to put into the workplace that we are choosing to work at and who we've been blessed to work for or with. This recognition that this leadership is temporary. No matter where we go, it's temporary. And you're accountable, because what you bring into that space is affecting everyone that you are touching. So whether through your thoughts, through your words, or through your actions, you are accountable. And this takes a genuine care for the work that we do. And not just for the money. And my next video will definitely be about money. And I thought this was a really great quotation because I work with grief recovery, as you know. I can say that a lot of times when people are going through grief, let's say they are managers in a big company of whatever sort, let's say it's in hospitality. And we have certain days for bereavement in North America, probably have certain days that can be taken off, even in the countries that I'm in Thailand and Bali. I don't know the specifics, but I'm pretty sure that people are given at least a day off if someone has passed away that they're related to, much like Canada. And oftentimes when people have gone through a grief or a loss experience, they bring that energy, because grieving takes some time to process, to learn from, to appreciate, to go through. And this is the only way that we can learn from the experience of grief. This quotation I thought would be useful for all of us that are in leadership roles to remember. It says, being a good steward of your pain, it involves being alive to your life. It involves taking the risk of being open, of reaching out, of keeping in touch with the pain, as well as the joy of what happens. Because at no time more than at a painful time do we live out of the depths of who we are rather than out of the shallows. Living from the depths of who we are rather than from the shallows. So from the shallow, we think, there's always time. From the depth, we realize, wow, time was limited for something. So some loss that we've gone through, some grief, so maybe a family member has passed away, maybe a friend has passed away, maybe someone has lost a job, maybe a home has changed, maybe a job itself has changed. So that allows us, knowing that loss and that grief, whether for ourselves or for someone else, that there is the shallow way of looking at, everything will be fine, there's always tomorrow, to, wow, there's only this moment. And this brings us very much into the present moment awareness. Now, do I think it's only important about my family because my family is grieving someone? Now I meet this new client wherever, whether in a hospitality industry or in healthcare. Do I feel for them, or do I feel more for myself? Because myself, I'm grieving, my family is grieving, and you're coming to me and you want a room? So this energy is transferred. So it doesn't matter if you put on a smile and you actually are speaking very kindly in either of these settings or any setting, it's still felt. And when we come from that space of wisdom, of I'm growing from this, there's something to learn from this experience is making me more compassionate towards another in this process, this is also stewardship. This awareness that we are not only stewards of our own body and mind, we are stewards for those that are affected by us and in our presence, and who we have the blessing to be in their presence. So this idea of recognizing that grief allows us to work from a place of depth. In North America, I do know that a lot of times people will go through, whether it's an illness, whether it's a diagnosis for themselves or for another that's close to them. And then it almost gives the reason for, well, I'm not in a good space because this. I have a reason. And I suspect around the world it's the same idea. And then everyone else walks very carefully around that person and treats that person very nice for a very limited time, because we all have our limits. And then when we get to those limits, we think, okay, but this work still needs to be done. And how we speak is then how we are stewarding that person. So in that time, to recognize this work really needs to be done, but to be able to say in a gentle way is a beautiful experience, and a beautiful experience for both sides, both the giver and the receiver. Same thing in healthcare. Yes, doctors go through their losses, and doctors go through pains and all sorts of griefs. And when they're going through that and they're coming in to also care for a client that's in front of them, that's stewarding. And that is the work that we do in healthcare or hospitality. I suspect we do that everywhere if we choose to. If we choose to treat the person that we meet out of the care, consideration, and compassion that we would like to receive, this is stewardship. And this is also recognizing that everyone that we meet is carrying a divine spark. And this is recognizing our own holy work of recognizing that I'm helping a divine being, and that is my divine energy helping another that I can see as divine. Important. So this is again when we're in a workplace and someone has gone through a loss, and I certainly have gone through this experience. Oftentimes we can look at people who haven't, who are just talking about the busy traffic on the way to getting to wherever we are, whether in hospitality or in healthcare, and we've just gone through a major life experience. It's not so easy to be compassionate for that person's drive when we're caught up in our own minds. This means that, again, we need to be stewards of our own minds first, and then recognize that the work that we're doing is stewardship for others. And then I thought that I would share something else, which I think is very important in, again, healthcare and hospitality. Stewardship is leaving the system better than you found it. Leaving the system better than you found it. And I think this is so important because many people do leave jobs for various reasons. Sometimes they're pushed out, sometimes they pull out, sometimes a business crumbles. And how do we leave it? Are we angry? Are we resentful? Are we holding a grudge? Because that energy goes out too. And in terms of, let's say, a particular job, a person leaves a job. And remember, I mentioned in the last video, whatever energy a person leaves a job in is something that the next person will inherit. So if you're not recognizing that that's just like the legacy a person might leave for their child, their genetic child, that this is the energy I leave you with, this is the same thing that we do in our workplaces. And recognize that as managers, we do this too. So as managers, as leaders, as human beings with each other, we do this. And can we leave a place better than we found it? And all we have to do is to think well of it, to send out a good thought, to say this was a good experience. This provided some learning for me. This was useful at a particular time. Rather than many people leave, that wasn't useful. What a waste of time. That energy is not useful to yourself or to the company or even personal space that you are leaving. Finally, I also thought that because the next video that I'm going to do is going to be about money, I thought I would comment on this quotation. And it literally is talking about what are the 3 types of stewardship. And it says, when you think of stewardship, you probably think of money. You think of tithes, offerings, and benevolence. Now this is from, again, that religious perspective or spiritual perspective, which is about give back to God in some way. So whether you give to the church or you give to a mosque or you give to a temple, you give to a pilgrimage, you give to a guru, you give to a teacher, all of that, that's one type. That's kind of like the tithe, that this percent of your money should go there. And many cultures, religions, styles do think of this. Then there's the offerings, which I see a lot in Bali, and I suspect that there would be a lot here with many Buddhist temples here too. So there's the offerings that are left. And I can tell you, I actually do not feel comfortable to go to temples here lately, inside temples, which I've been used to going into Buddhist temples especially very comfortably. And to only leave the energy of what I'm carrying with me there. And I believe that there is no other expectation. This mind, for some reason, in this week, I felt very held back in terms of, oh, don't go in there if you don't have something to leave them. And it's very interesting, again, just something for me to reflect on. You might find this too. The offerings that we leave for anyone could be an offering of goodwill, an offering of gratitude, an offering of appreciation, an offering of attention. All of these are offerings in healthcare and hospitality, and of course, everywhere that we go. And then the third is benevolence. So benevolence is, again, this kind of a generosity. If we understand that this came from the generosity of the divine that comes through us to whoever we're helping, very important to prevent ourselves from going into an ego space. Now, a lot of things are being, to me, I'm certainly seeing so many things that are in what I would consider as very spiritual or religious communities or areas. And again, that seems to be different than Canada yet. I believe there's always a certain pocket that is a little bit more connected with universal or divine energy. And I certainly do not feel that it's because of the number of offerings that they make or do, or the number of festivals, or the number of times that they go to a temple or a mosque or a church. And not that, not the number of times that they meditate, not the number of hours that they meditate, not the ashrams they've stayed at, or how many years they've been away from home or lived in forest areas, which I've met all of these people. It's all about what is coming from our heart now. What is coming from our heart now? Because otherwise it's all about ego. I've done this, I've been there, I've got this title, all of that becomes very ego. And when we're in this present moment, all we have to see is, am I generous now? Am I generous with my time? Am I generous with my understanding? Am I giving with my full attention? So these three types of stewardship, it says here, are time, talent, and testimony. The time we spend in being the best of ourselves with anyone we're with, very important. That is stewardship. Talent. Some of us are really good with connecting with people where we actually care, and that could be a talent. Some of us are good with reading people's emotions, and that's a talent. Some of us are really good with money, and that's a talent. And then testimony. Do others share that about you? So that's a testimony that, wow, this is the experience I have with this person. Are you leaving that testimony? We talk about leaving a legacy for the world. Sometimes it's for family. Sometimes it's for the community. And is it day to day where someone can say today that, wow, this is a really great person? Now, if we are recognizing that that's stewardship testimony, receiving that is stewardship, that we've seen, we've given somehow, and it's remembered, that's the testimony. Are we doing that for others? I would hope that in the leadership world, that we recognize, again, to keep our own egos down, that others are doing something for us. Can we have a testimony about, wow, these are the types of patients that come to me. These are the types of clients that come to me, and not out of ego, out of that space of understanding, because they value this space that is being created. And both of those, their attendance and our giving, is both from divine energies. This is stewardship. Today, I would encourage us all to apply stewardship, or the principles of stewardship, into our practice as service providers. I wish you a fabulous day or night ahead, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day or night, everyone.